Hey Roussel, said here. Um, Before we begin, um, I've been looking at comments on previous reviews of these anniversary specials, and indeed the analytics, and so I've been a little bit disturbed by them because I had a comment on a video last week that these videos were a little bit boring, that people weren't really very excited by the content I was giving them. And also, the analytics show that most people who watch these videos lose interest in them sometime in the first 30 seconds. And I obviously ascribe that to the attention deficit problem that we have these days. The fact that you who's watching this video, don't have any sort of attention span. It's nothing to do with me, of course. But what I've tried to do is I've tried to combat this accusation that these videos are dull, and also try to retain your attention. So as you're watching this, you're already feeling a sense of being compelled to keep watching. Why is that? Something to do with what I'm saying. It's because I've put some subliminal cuts into the video. Since I've been speaking, you've seen a little bit of warfare in the Middle East. You've seen some hardcore pornography. You've seen images of David Tennant having dinner with Catherine Tate in her back garden. Images designed to horrify you in many ways. And I hope it's working. I hope that there, you're getting that niggle, almost like the giggle. There's that thing in your brain you can't quite shake. You think, what is it? That's what it is. So I'm going to use subliminal cuts, and also after I've talked for a little while, I'm going to suddenly do things to surprise you in order to keep you interested, to keep you going. So I hope that the combination of those two things works. I hope that they're successful. So, that said, let's get on with it. Let's talk about the Giggle, the third anniversary special, which follows a rather, for me, lackluster and not particularly special last week. Didn't feel like an anniversary episode. This one did. This was meatier. This had consequences. A little bit of new law was introduced here. An old villain from the classic era. An old companion. Mel. Be nice to see Perry again, of course, but well, nothing said that there's a gay man in charge of the show like the choice of companion that was brought back. But we'll come to that very shortly. No, actually, we'll come to it now. So, in this episode, you talked about the fact, I'm just trying to keep you interested. I don't know what else to do. This is a video about Doctor Who, for God's sake. When you select this on the YouTube, what do you expect to happen? What do you think it's going to be about? It's going to be a bloke talking about Doctor Who, isn't it? What? I don't understand the analytics. Why do people switch off? Was it not what they expected from the obvious way the video was titled and described? It's not my problem. It's yours. Get your act together. I'm not going to do the jerking thing anymore. It makes me look stupid. It's a sop to you, people like you, no fucking attention span. Why don't you stop concentrating? Put your phone down. Turn off all the other distractions. Tell your partner to leave you alone. Start listening to me. Alright? And no more of that. There aren't any more subliminal cuts, no more gimmicks. I'm just going to go for it now. And that's the way it's going to be for the rest of this video. If you're not on board, bugger off and watch something else. Now, The Giggle was about what? Well, again, not much of a story. There isn't much these days in Doctor Who, is there? Everything's so rushed. It's not like the old days where you had, a 5 or 6 part serial to enjoy the story at leisure, and there's no real time for that anymore. But the Giggle did have some interesting ideas. It seemed to be about the idea that television, it's a shock, I'm glad you're sitting down, television is a medium for turning people mad. It's almost as if, Roussel, you were saying, it brings out the self-righteous element in people. It makes them paranoid and conspiratorial. It's almost like you're suggesting that there are some critics of you in this show who are suggesting you're using the medium to, I don't know, indoctrinate people or to mediate ideological messages. And aren't we crazy for not relaxing and just taking that all in? The Toymaker even critiqued cancel culture, which was a shock, wasn't it? Now, here's the thing though, if you're going to critique cancel culture while teaching the audience that they're likely to be censured or regarded as second rate if they don't get on board with the sort of identity politics that you're heavily promoting in your stories, you do open yourself up to the charge of hypocrisy. And before you say it, yes, of course, all storytelling is ideological. And good science fiction stories are allegorical, usually in character, and they do contain important ideological messages. I understand that very well. But there is a subtle way to do it, a nuanced way to do it, a way to do it through the frame of the story itself and the characters that we meet along the way, and then there is a sort of heavy-handed didactic way of doing it. And in these specials, you have lent in that direction. I can illustrate what I'm talking about by showing you a clip from Star Trek The Next Generation, a show that started off being written with a slightly infantile bent, a show that didn't trust its audience to begin with. Once it settled down and it did trust its audience, it became one of the greatest science fiction television series ever made. But in this clip that I'm about to show you, from the first season, which was a bit of a troubled season, it's when they weren't quite sure of the audience, it's from an episode called Symbiosis, and it's about drug dependency. And to set the clip up for you, the crew of the Enterprise, I don't know why I did that, it's like Ronnie Corbett, isn't it? Now, the producer said to me, I can't do Ronnie Corbett. I can do that. In this clip I'm about to show you, the Enterprise discovers 2 races of people on 2 different planets. One is suffering from a terrible disease, seemingly, and the other is supplying them with a drug to cure this particular illness, and they've been doing it for decades. One economy is completely dependent on the other. The makers of the drug have channeled their entire domestic production into the manufacture of this single narcotic, and the people who receive it as a life-saving drug are completely dependent on it, and they're hooked on it. And anyway, spoilers, the Enterprise crew discover that the disease these people allegedly had was cured decades ago, and that they are being exploited by their neighbours. Now, in this clip, in a very special episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, young Wesley Crusher, the audience proxy, questions why anyone would want to take drugs. Take a look.
Data, I can understand how this could happen to the Onarians. What I can't understand is why anyone would voluntarily become dependent on a chemical.
Voluntary addiction to drugs is a recurrent theme in many cultures.
Wesley, no one wants to become dependent. That happens later.
But it does happen. So why do people start?
On my home planet, there was so much poverty and violence that for some, the only escape is through drugs.
How can a chemical substance provide an escape?
It doesn't. But it makes you think it does. You have to understand, drugs can make you feel good. They make you feel on top of the world. You're happy, sure of yourself, in control.
But it's artificial.
It doesn't feel artificial until the drug wears off. Then you pay the price. Before you know it, you're taking the drug not to feel good, but to keep from feeling bad.
And that's the trap.
All you care about is getting your next dosage. Nothing else matters.
I guess I just don't understand.
Wesley, I hope you never do.
Now, Roussel, that is a very heavy-handed clip, I'm sure you'll agree. No one sensible is going to argue with the message. Drug taking is bad. But what you'll have noticed is that it's rather unsubtle. The proverbial sledgehammer to crack the nut, right? The episode itself makes such a good job of being an anti-drug story that it doesn't need that scene. But somebody somewhere thought the audience is stupid. If you don't lay it on thick, if you don't tell them, you know, there's a teachable moment here. There's a life lesson. People's thinking can be modified by the medium of television. But these days, we recognise that scene to be too didactic, too heavy-handed, too obvious, and therefore an example of bad writing. Yes? What Star Trek did in that scene, you do with identity politics. Yeah? And by the way, that episode of Star Trek Next Generation is from 1988. You are about 40 years behind the curve. So, you know, the next time you think of yourself as on the cutting edge of television writing, think about that. Now, Roussel, you're the ultimate puppeteer as far as Doctor Who is concerned. And you've used that power, like the toy maker, to change the universe, haven't you? You haven't made it, however, a place where older fans of the series, I think, feel particularly comfortable. And that was one of the things that I noticed again in the Giggle. It was this sort of, I don't know. It was revisiting the series past, but with a sort of revisionist eye. It was, again, making sure that we were in no doubt that the preoccupations of you and the present day were always there in the episode, tangible as a quilt. And it meant that older fans of the series have sort of preferred it when it was set in a hermetically sealed universe, when the preoccupations of the audience didn't impinge on the material. Those fans, I think, were made to feel a little less welcome, you know, which begs the question, Roussel, what are fans of the old show supposed to do now? Are they supposed to stay behind like David Tennant and go and live with Donna and sit in her fucking garden drinking Pimm's and talking about last night's TV? You know, while the cool kids go off with Shooty and have a great time? Is that what you're saying? If that's the message, I think, Roussel, you've made a mistake. You don't get any points in this life for being divisive, old fruit. You've got to bring people together. That used to be Doctor Who's great strength. It was such a unifying show. Because it wasn't about the audience. It was about the crazy, insane old uncle and his companions buggering off into the universe and having weird adventures that didn't correspond to the life experience of anyone at home. Consequently, whoever you were, wherever you were, and crucially, whatever you looked like, didn't matter a fig, did it? Those were the days. So, there was a scene in there where the toy maker did a little puppet show, and quite hilariously, he critiqued the old propensity of Stephen Moffat, God rest him, to never follow through on death. And that was a pointed and relevant critique. I was with you 100%. I almost applauded. I was like, yeah, holy shit, that's what I was saying for years in the letters that Stephen didn't open. But you kind of ruined it, didn't you? By setting that up as a sort of... you're almost saying to your old chum, Stephen, you didn't have the balls to follow through on death and, have real consequences, real weight. And then 10 minutes later, what did you do? You bottled David Tennant's regeneration. David Tennant regenerated, but he did not die. He didn't disappear. He bi-generated. He split into two people. His present self and his next self. A big change to Doctor Who mythology, Brucell. In fact, there was lots in that last 10-15 minutes, wasn't there, that was sort of game-changing. We discovered that the Doctor's body changed itself back to David Tennant, suit and all, because deep down in his subconscious, he wanted to go and live with Donna. Huh? He's met so many wonderful people. Some of them were referenced in tonight's episode. Like Amy, for example. He doesn't want to go and live with Amy. He wants to live with Donna. He didn't want to live with Perry. This was a stretch for me, Roussel, I won't lie to you. I just didn't think that this made any sense. It doesn't make sense in terms of the mythology of the show. If indeed bi-generation has never happened and is sort of a myth, why should it happen now? What circumstances occurred in this episode that would prompt bi-generation? You didn't explain it. You didn't tell us. So it was just a freak thing? Like a 1 in a 1 million regenerations event? Why, if the body's, renewing itself, would it split into its damaged portion and its renewed portion? Isn't the point of regeneration that it's a reconstitution of the body because the body is damaged beyond repair? Isn't that what regeneration is? What function does bi-generation serve? I can't be the only person, surely, who was confused about this. It doesn't make any sense. But, I don't know, maybe you just love David Tennant so much and you love Donna so much you can't bear to end their journey together. Another ego-driven, self-indulgent decision on your part. Leave them together. Leave the Doctor living with Donna. what's he going to do when all of Donna's family die? Are we really supposed to believe that the Doctor is going to settle for a life in, I don't know, wherever the fuck they live? Where do they live? North London? Is he really going to settle for that? When Aunt Mavis and Mrs. Middleweek come round for the 19th time to talk about their bunions and their ongoing dispute over their front porch with the council. Is the Doctor going to sit there and go, interesting, yeah. His eye on the TARDIS doors. You know, how long is it going to last? It's a stupid idea, Roussel. Self-indulgent bullshit. You know it and I know it. Why not just kill David Tennant, for God's sake? He's died before. What did you want? Do you want to have him in reserve so you can bring him back whenever the show's ratings dip? Oh fuck, no one's what? Quit! Unleash the emergency Tennant! Well, at least now we know he's going to be in the next anniversary special. Maybe every subsequent special. Does that mean we get Donna too? I mean, I think you overestimate the appeal of this duo, Roussel. I'm not kidding here when I tell you that the whole country is not united behind a campaign to keep Donna on in perpetuity. So, a new era of Doctor Who begins. What have we learned over the last 3 specials? We've learned that the Doctor's gay, and by the look of it, so are all the villains. The Toymaker being interested in the Spice Girls. That's an interesting choice. This incredibly intelligent consciousness that can remodel the universe has the same cultural reference points as a gay man from Wales. A middle-aged gay man from Wales. Know any of those, Roussel? Or the supporting characters are non-binary or bi or you know, what else? God knows. I don't know. But again, you know, you don't undo an historic injustice by going to the opposite extreme. The universal principle is that you try and give everyone a fair shake, and you try and create a show that's for everyone. And the best way to do that, Roussel, is to have a show where these sorts of considerations are irrelevant, because they don't matter a threepenny toss either to the principal characters or those guest starring on the show. In the end, I like the Giggle generally as an episode. I still think you need to get Murray Gold off the tartrazine. His hyperactive score is highly intrusive, just as it always has been. Other than that, the only thing I worried about by the time the episode was finished was my own identity. Because you see, Roussel, I worry that I'm not secure in either my sexuality or my identity overall. And I worry that having watched these 3 specials, I'm developing a propensity for camp. I'm starting to disavow my old butch masculine demeanour. That militantly heterosexual aspect that shaped my personality and endeared me to so many female viewers. I find myself thinking things I didn't used to think, like, what's the first song to be played on Shooty's jukebox? Yeah, what might it be? Shooty. Oh, come on, Shooty. Yeah, 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 yeah. Come on, Shooty. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm going down. Catch me just before I hit the ground. You look to kill a lonely buck on wrong. You're the king of the party with a style and a gun. Mock me in your sights and fire at me. Pick them off your head and run away. Been a captive and a prisoner since the start. Shoot me with your love, baby, straight to my heart. Come on, I'll shoot me. Just shoot me when you're alone. Shoot me in the heart. Shoot me. Feels like we're falling to the floor. Feels like we're calling out for more. Feels like we're dying, you and me. Feels like we're dying to be free.
All right, okay, all right, enough of that. Sorry. You see? See what you've done to me? I'll see you at Christmas. Adieu.